From the heart of the Florida Keys in Marathon, Florida, IPI Sports brings you the Bud Light Marathon Offshore Challenge. 52 boats, drivers, and crews have entered this first national offshore powerboat race for the '88 season. The excitement is high as last year's defending champions are looking at a competitive field of new boats, challenging them for offshore's coveted national points. The Bud Light Marathon Offshore Challenge is sponsored by Bud Light. Ask for Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. And by Mercury Performance Products. The race never stops. Welcome to Marathon in the heart of the Florida Keys. We're atop Faro Blanco, our broadcast headquarters for this, the first offshore race of 1988. Hello, everyone. Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick as we get ready for this most exciting start to a new and challenging season. Right off the bat, a challenge in a little bit of wind condition out there, Jim.
The wind is going to make a difference. Those drivers will have to be careful today. They'll race from the Atlantic side to the Gulf side. The currents will change. Could be a problem for the drivers. They're going to have to be alert. Well, fortunately, we've got a lot of drivers that you've heard of before. These are veteran drivers for the most case, and I think we're going to watch them very closely and see some good driving out there today. Bobby Kaiser, US 1 in the open class. He has to be reckoned with. He's made some improvements with Errol Lanier. They've worked in the off-season. Of course, a new open class entry, John D'Elia, teams up with his son, J.D., fully encapsulated cockpit. And they have moved out of the modified class, and as John told us prior to race day, he said, we're up with the pros now. We're going to have to really watch out. Popeye's Chicken comes along. They don't bring their new boat. They bring the one they're sure of. And they're to be reckoned with in the superboat class. We're going to take a look now at some of the boats down in the pit areas. The helicopters are already taking to the air. Let's go down to Mark Spencer, who's standing by in the pits.
Down here in the pits, we'll keep you updated on the constantly changing weather conditions, and we'll also keep you posted about the attrition rate. During the show, we'll have a chance to look at a unique research center here in the Florida Keys. Jim will describe the different sizes of boats, and we'll study the differences between stern drives and surface drives. We're also going to have a chance to profile several of the drivers, many of whom are heading out on the course right now. The boats will start directly off Faro Blanco's lighthouse and head southwest to Checkpoint 1. They make a left turn and run straight for the 7-mile bridge, under it, and go east to Checkpoint 2. From Sombrero Key, the boats turn northwest to Checkpoint 3 at Turtle Shoal. Then they travel east, again to Checkpoint 4, just off Hawks Cay. At this point, it's another left-hand turn, and the boats travel south along the coastline of Vaca Key and Marathon. They go back under the bridge, passing checkpoints 5 and 6, and then it's full throttle back to the start-finish line. Each class is required to make a specific number of laps to complete this 149-mile course.
Well, Mark Spencer told us about the size of that course, Jim, and now, of course, everybody knows we're going to have to cover that with helicopters, and IPI is ready for that. Chopper 1 will be up above the fleet, and Rich Lors will be on board. Rich?
Well, thanks, Dick. As you said, I'm out here at the helicopter, and we've got the best seat in the house. We've just received word from the race officials that the seas are building. It's getting quite a bit rougher offshore. So we're going to go up now and take a look out there and see what kind of conditions we can expect for this very, very exciting race here in Marathon.
Well, first we'll go up and take a look at this area known as the heart of the Florida Keys. World-famous for its tarpon and bone fishing, among the many big-game fish easily found in the Florida Keys. Traditionally, the fine weather associated with the Keys favors anglers of all varieties. The Overseas Highway is the magic carpet by which visitors can cross into the unique world of the Florida Keys. America's Caribbean islands are dominated by deep blue seas, nodding palms, and beautiful beaches. Host to more than 1 million visitors annually, Marathon offers a relaxed, friendly atmosphere at its many fine resort hotels, full-service marinas, and gourmet restaurants. For the non-seafaring, a day of tennis competition, a lazy stroll on a championship golf course, to just lounging poolside in the sun can be found in that special world of the Florida Keys. And adding to Marathon's world renown is offshore powerboat racing. The boat's now heading out onto the course from the marina headquarters at Faro Blanco in Marathon, the heart of the Florida Keys. We'll have great action for you coming up, and we'll be back as the 52-boat field starts the Bud Light Marathon Offshore Challenge. Dick Rippon and Jim Hendrick, and we welcome you to the first race of the 1988 offshore season. Lots of new faces to talk about this year. 52 boats heading to the milling area right now, all different shapes and sizes. Jim, let's talk about the kind of boat it takes to run a course like this.
In every offshore event, there are several classes that participate. This is Rick Felson's High Risk. It's a 24-foot catamaran. It is in the stock class, powered by twin outboards by Mercury, 200 horsepower each. It holds the national average record of 86.5, and it is the 1987 World and National Championship boats. Now let's take a look at the biggest boats of the fleet. Now we come to the superboat class. It can go as long as 50 feet. 4 800 horsepower engines. This particular one, a brand new one, is 47 foot long. It's the Chunky Express, has 3 700 horsepower engines. Mercury outdrives power this boat, and they can go up to 140 mile an hour in the straightaway.
Those speeds would be hit under ideal conditions today. Not quite that ideal, but we'll have plenty of action with the waves out there. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for the superboats. Popeye's Diet Coke leads the pack. Number 1, Al Copeland, Jesse James, Chris Lavin in the number 3 boat, and the number 13, Awesome Randy Garriga.
Neil Crane, Red Crane of Mount Clemens, a duty-free 2, Chunky Express, and Flying Blind. Flying Blind is one of the movie boats today. It'll appear in that Blue Lightning movie to be released. With seas running 4 to 6 feet today, it can cause a variety of difficulties. Driver of the Jesse James, Chris Lavin, knows that that's only half the problem.
The shallow spots in and around the Keys can be tough water to run in because it makes the water kind of unpredictable. When you get some of the swells or the bigger chop that hits the shallow water, it makes it do funny things, bounces around. You get some big holes now and then.
Well, sea conditions may be unpredictable, but the superboats have an easier time handling it. They range up to 50 feet in length, while the open class averages 35 feet.
Let's talk the open class, another exciting class of competition out here today in the U.S. Swiftshore Motor Yachts. Bob Kaiser out of Detroit, Michigan. Number 15, Spirit of America, John Antonelli. Another of our movie boats, Caliente, Mark Mercury driving, and Special Edition, John D'Elia.
Canada Home Challenge with Bob Adoni at the wheel. The Thriller with Ed Martinez driving, and Craig Berry will pilot the Silver Bullet.
And at this point, everybody's mind is on one thing, the start of this race. The boats have already formed up in the super and open classes. Now we have the largest field of superboats ever assembled, 6 of them. They're all coming down for the start, along with 7 open boats. It is going to be a wild start as they line up coming down to the line, Jim. Look at the rooster tail coming off of the Popeyes. Again, he's trying to get up on plane. That's the yellow boat trailing in the center of your screen, just off to the right. As they come down, let's see if we can get a leader.
All right, there are so many new boats now, we can't key on any one particular boat at this point of the race, but we'll have to pick them up. And in the super class, it's Jesse James with Chris Lavin leading. He is a superboat on your left. And in the open class is the U.S. 1 champion, which is, of course, Swiftshore Yachts with Bob Kaiser.
We might mention also that last year, as the year before in this race, this Swiftshore boat driven by Bob Kaiser had problems out here, so he's got to have a little of that on his mind at this point.
Now, keep in mind, you're looking at 2 different classes. At the left of your screen, the black boat is in the open class. The one on the right is in super class, so they're each individually leading their own particular class, but your overall leader is Bob Kaiser.
They are now approaching the first turn on the course, which will take them under the bridge and out onto the open water of the Atlantic.
And this is where Bob had his problems last couple of years. He would spin out right about here. Looks like they've got it under control right now.
He's got a beautiful ride in that cat. As they're coming down, you can see the other boat closing in close behind him now. Jesse James had been up there, but it looks like Popeyes has moved into position also, so it looks like it is now Swiftshore Motor Yachts, followed by Popeyes. There you see Al Copeland, Stan Ware, and Bill Soroy in that boat. And now moving up into third place, the new boat, Canada Home.
Yes, this is a 38 Apache catamaran with 2 750 horsepower Mercruiser engines.
What a great shot into the cockpit of Popeyes. Bill Soroy is the throttleman on there. He's watching very closely as they now head into open water for the first time in this race. He's got to keep that throttle going up and down. He doesn't want to wind the engines out. Look at Jesse James.
Bouncing through some rough water as predicted, Dick Rippon.
Well, Chris Lavin certainly knows all about the water here in Marathon, and he's doing a fine job of holding that boat in there. A good run. Jesse James now second in the super. This boat has moved up to second in the open class. This is the number 66, Canada Homes, a brand new boat.
And the throttle man, Richie Powers, is a veteran of many offshore wars throughout the years.
He's going to get a good test out here. The water is really starting to roughen up. Now we can see some good head-on competition from the Cats. Look at that airspace underneath the hulls as these hulls fly high across the water, approaching the bridge. Silver Bullet, Craig Berry. Right behind him should be the Spirit of America. There you see him, red, white, and blue. That is John Antonelli. Here is a brand new boat. This is the Chunky Express. Jim, I wonder about it. When you're driving a new boat like this, what you must be thinking. This is a V-hull. He's got some wave action coming up, but you don't know how the boat's going to react in a race.
Well, I'll tell you, he's got a good man at throttle, man. Bobby Moore, a real veteran. He'll give him his baptism of fire. Here comes the Awesome, also in the Superboat class, throttled by Elliott Sutton and navigated by Paul Churchill, and Randy Garriga is the driver of that one.
So here's your leader overall, and first place in the open class also. That's Bobby Kaiser in Swiftsure, and look at him rough it up a little. Dick Crippen with Jim Hendrick and Mark Spencer, and we'll return with a modified and pro stock starts, plus take a look at some unusual and unique research. Welcome back to Marathon, Florida, the US 1 Swiftsure. Bobby Kaiser out of Detroit leading the open class. As you see there, Al Copeland is in hot pursuit leading the Superboat field, while the modified and pro stock boats prepare for their starts. Mark Spencer and Dr. David Nathanson look at a research center that uses dolphins as teaching aids.
Doctor, you have a very unusual classroom and some extraordinary teacher's aids. Tell us about it.
Well, what we're doing here at Dolphin Research Center is using the natural affinity that kids have for animals, in this case dolphins, to increase the attention span of mentally handicapped kids. And as a result, what we're doing is increasing the rate at which they're learning by engineering the environment, allowing the children rewards like petting, kissing, swimming with the dolphins if they correctly respond to pictures or words that we have on board. We're measuring that against the way they normally learn in a classroom situation. And the difference between the two tells us that dolphins are wonderful for use as teachers, actually.
What kind of results have the kids seen through your program?
Well, with the 6 children we're using in the pilot study right now, under all conditions with all 6 children, the kids are learning at least twice as fast with the dolphins, and some children are learning 4 and 5 times faster.
A marvelous and interesting place. Mandy, how did it all get started?
Well, it actually started 30 years ago with a man by the name of Milton Santini, who started a roadside attraction in the Florida Keys and has actually worked out to be a research facility now.
And one of the very interesting things about all this is that the dolphins are free to come and go as they please, aren't they?
It's a different type of captivity. It's actual elective captivity, whereas you can see they can jump right over the fence at any time or just glide over the fence because it's underwater. It's kind of nifty. It's kind of different, yeah.
Nifty, different, and very beautiful, too. Thank you very much, Mandy. M3, Dirty Laundry, leading the field in the starting lineup for the modified. Joe Mock driving that boat. The M7 Cat is Al Kropp. M20, Chariots of Fire, Richard G. Smith.
Though roughly the same size boat as Pro Stock, the modifieds pack approximately 250 horsepower more, in addition to running a slightly longer course. However, that doesn't make the Pro Stock class any less competitive, Dick.
Looking at the starting lineup, the P1 E&B Maelstrom Marine, Gene Latta driving that one. The Lipship P7 is Anthony Caligari, George Gill in low bid, and Scaredy Cat is Gary Rotundo.
Brad Curry in High Roller, Miss Don Q with Juan Storales, and Greg Young will pilot the Team Hydra. The start of the Pro Stock and the modified. These boats very evenly matched, and there's proof of it right there as we take a look as they approach the starting line. We've got good action as the boats start moving into position. They would like to get down to turn number 1 first. That gives them a little bit cleaner water. This is a long enough time between the start of the Super and the Open that the water should smooth out a little for them. And at the driver's meeting, they were warned by the chief referee, which is Gene Whipp for this one. He said there will be no passing any boat under that bridge, either going in either direction today.
So they want to get in good position before they get up there. Now we can see Lipship, the P7 boat, is pressing for the lead out there. Chariots of Fire, a very close second, is actually first for the modifieds. Good shot there of Joe Mock in Dirty Laundry. Dirty Laundry now is really pushing it hard. The pack is staying very, very close on the trip down to checkpoint number 1. And there it is, Jim. They're coming through in fine style.
Dirty Laundry, I believe, just went through a rooster tail of another boat on a wide turn here as they head toward the bridge and out to open sea.
That's one thing they have to watch out for is that rooster tail, because that can really become sort of a tool in these things. They don't usually have very big rooster tails, but they've got a lot of power coming through the water that's spraying off the back. There you can see it's also a decision as where to go underneath that bridge.
They can take any span, but do not endanger yourself or the other competition.
Chariots of Fire is widening the lead now, just going under the 7-mile bridge and out into the open water for the very first time. Dirty Laundry still holding in there very solid.
The M7 Cat is remaining in second place right now in the modifieds, while Miss Don Q is currently first in the pro stock. Here's your Dirty Laundry, and get a good cockpit view here, Dick.
And a little bit of instruction to the driver out there as to which way to go, forward and fast. Cat looking very, very good out there, but you can see as he starts to hit into the water, the air gets into that tunnel under there, and they can really fly these cat hulls very, very high.
John Sosselin has to be real quick with the throttles to stop the cavitation. Here's your Don Q, currently first in pro stock. Juan Sorella.
This is a good shot right down into the cockpit. Look at how they have to constantly turn that wheel. They're constantly moving it back and forth to keep the boat in balance with the waves.
Unlike auto racing, the track always changes in water sports, especially in hydroplane racing and offshore.
Looks like Tony Caligari is going to go for a little bit smoother course back there. He's letting one of the other boats break the wake for him, and he's just riding right up the center of it, and he's getting a rather smooth ride.
We have a problem. Attrition is starting already, Dick. The E&B Maelstrom, Nicky Cutro, has lost this race almost before he begins.
He's got to be wondering what it is with this particular race course. Last year, he was less than a mile from the finish and ran out of gas. Here is your overall leader once again, Bob Kaiser out of Detroit, Michigan, in the Swift Shore boat. He is getting a great ride out here.
And look at the great ride that Popeye's Diet Coke with Al Copeland and gang at the wheel. They now take the overall lead. This is in the Superboat class as he passes underneath the helicopter at over 100 miles an hour. That leaves the Swift Shore in second place overall, but first in class in open.
So this is going to be a real drag race at this point, and what a place for it to happen. There you got a great shot of the Popeye's boat. He blasts by Kaiser. He's racing his old boat. The new boat he's designing has a different type of cockpit.
Being self-contained inside that capsule is a totally different thing. But we feel that we're going to extreme extents, I'd say, to put together a safety program that I think will do the job for us and enable us to go fast, faster than we've gone before, and I guess feel safe, hopefully without a false sense of security.
As we mentioned at the start of this race, there are some new boats for 88, and here is one of them. It's currently a third place superboat. It's called Awesome. One of two new superboats. It's a 46-foot Cougar V with three 850 horsepower engines with Mercury outdrives. The driver record is Elliott Sutton. Here's Chunky Express, Philip Basinski, Tom Carr, and Bobby Moore and crew. This is also a brand new boat. It's a 47-foot Apache V with three 700 horsepower engines. Currently running fourth in Superboat class here in this inaugural of Offshore Racing today.
Jesse James, Jim, is pushing hard now in second place behind Popeyes in the Superboats. Chopper One's on top. Let's go to Rich Lors.
All right, thanks, Dick. Just a point to note here, the throttle man in Jesse James for the first time is Don Roberts. This is his first race in a catamaran, and the man is doing terrifically. He's been with them since the team started about 6 or 7 years ago. He's been their crew chief, but he's getting a shot behind the throttles today, and he's sitting in a mighty big chair, doing a marvelous job. Don is the kind of guy that doesn't let pressure bother him. He's a very level-headed guy. He's in there with Chris Laban, who's also a low-key, level-headed guy. There's probably less excitement in there than there is in this helicopter right now. And you know what? They're slowly making a move on Bob Kaiser for second place overall. Listen to those supercharged motors. Wow. Whoa. I don't know. She rolled it.
An unbelievable sight, and it can happen, as you can see, in almost calm seas for these boats. But all of a sudden, Jesse James got loose. There you can see Jesse James upside down in the water as we take the shot from Chopper One. Jim, it looks like both of the driver and the navigator got out of it okay.
Let's take a look at it in slow motion. Completely out of the water for about 60 feet. Digs the stern in. Now that puts an awful stress on that steering wheel. Hits a roller almost diagonally. Starts to roll to the right. He's completely upside down. He's on his back for another 50 to 60 feet. Now he hooks right, and only the enclosed cockpit saves those guys.
All right, the medical crews are moving in. Let's go to Rich Lors.
All right, we have a medical rescue boat coming right here. We have two people in the water. They both seem to be okay. They did get out from their capsule safely. They were out in seconds. I guess they weren't under there for 15 seconds. So we have two at least conscious drivers, and it looks like they're okay.
Well, we want to say special thanks to Phil Lewis, the photographer, who did a great job on that, and Rich Lures for a good job of reporting. We go back out onto the course now. There's Bob Kaiser. He is riding right side up very fast, and right now is leading in the open class.
Bobby Kaiser is your U.S. 1 defending national high point champion. Here's Craig Berry, currently second in the open class, and what a great cockpit shot of these three guys. One driver, one throttle man, one navigator to keep them on course.
And boy, we get a shot right in there, and you can see the throttleman. He's got to constantly move those throttles back and forth.
Here's the new boat, Canada Homes, just getting back up to speed. They stopped to see if they could help at the Jesse James crash site. Prior to their stopping, they were in second place. They've now dropped back to third.
Everyone's running well in the open class, and we'll return to the Bud Light Marathon Offshore Challenge with a report on the Jesse James boat. Dick Crippen and Jim Hendrick, we're back in Marathon, Florida, the heart of the Florida Keys, and there you can see the throttleman and driver, the Jesse James, riding the upside-down boat back to shore. They decided not to go with the medical crews. Jim, let's take another look at how this accident happened.
The boat looks like it's riding perfectly, and all of a sudden catapults off a one roller, completely airborne, lands stern first, then does a little shine. Now it starts to hook to the left, and a roller assists it. He couldn't fight the wheel back to the right, so he hooks to the left, upside down in a roll. He slides another 50, 60, maybe 70 feet upside down and hooks left again, and they are very lucky. Although it happened so quick, right now, Chris Lavin and Don Roberts riding back to shore have to reflect on what they've been through.
Bobby Kaiser's reflecting on his lead position right now. Let's take a look at his average speed in the Swift Shore right now, 86.174 miles per hour. Silver Bullet second, Canada Homes now riding in third. Now remember, Bob Kaiser the last 2 years has spun out on this course. Fortunately, he escaped injury also. Kaiser has been swapping in this race the overall lead with Al Copeland since it began. But would he switch to superboats?
I'm right now in the process of building another boat in England for the European circuit and for the World Championships in Guernsey this year. And I've chosen to stay with the open class. It's the highest class internationally recognized, and I want to race international, so I'm going to stay in open class.
So far, that's being very good for him, a wise decision, because he is leading that class right now.
Here's the second place boat, Silver Bullet, a brand new catamaran, 38-footer, twin 700 horsepower Hawk Marine engines, Mercury Marine outdrive. Dick, and they're doing a pretty good job today in the inaugural.
They sure are. It's a good-looking boat, and they are riding beautifully out there. Right behind them is Canada Homes trying to catch up, running third in the open. They're the ones who stopped to help the Jesse James crew. Rich Lures is up top. Let's go to him.
Thanks, Dick. Canada Homes Challenge has made a tremendous move after stopping for probably 3 to 5 minutes with the Jesse James accident. They have come back to within no more than a third of a mile of Bob Kaiser's Swift Shore Homes. So they're making a move for the lead with quite a penalty to overcome. Bob Idoni and Richie Powers are doing a tremendous job in there today.
Boy, they certainly are. They've now closed to within a third of a mile of Bob Kaiser, the leader, and they are now holding in second. Back in fourth place, it's Special Edition in the open class. This is a new boat. It's a father and son that have joined forces.
My son, J.D. DeLea, is the co-pilot, a former world champion. My business partner, now he's my racing partner, running up with the Open Boys this year, the professionals of the sport. I think he's got what it takes, and I'm going to find out, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun trying.
We're going to have a lot of fun watching this father and son team all season long.
Offshore racing is a test track for general public consumption. There have always been arguments. Which is the best hull, the best engines, the best outdrives? Bob Kaiser and Bill Soroyce make their preference clear.
Bob, in the last several years, there's been a lot of controversy about surface drives and stern drives. Why did you pick stern drives?
Well, I run the Mercruiser number 4 drives, mainly because we have I think the advantage over the surface drives in rough water. We have the advantage of being able to drop our drives down, which makes our boats stick closer to the water in the rough water. The Arnestons, of course, you can, and those type drives, you can change the attitude of the boat, but not as drastically and to accommodate the rougher conditions.
It's really just an evolution of equipment, really, I feel. Let's face it, the surfacing application is more or less for an extremely high-performance application. And it has its application as far as shallow water operation. But I think from an all-around good handling characteristic of a normal family pleasure boat, I think it's still pretty hard to be the standard stern drive.
Let's catch up now on the modified class on our leaderboard. The M7 is leading. That's Cat that you see right there, 73.302 miles per hour. Chariots of Fire now is second, but Dirty Laundry, Jim, led off the start line, now falling back to third place.
What I find interesting is that the modified boats are running about 13-mile-an-hour average speed, different than the open class, but there, of course, is a difference in horsepower.
These boats are a little bit smaller. There you can see Dirty Laundry and taking a little bit of wave action out there, and some pretty good competition right next door.
That's right. There's only 1/10 of a mile an hour separating these two teams. Chariots of Fire will have a battle before it's over for second place in this modified division. And look at him come out of that water completely airborne. They're getting a little rough ride at this part of the race course.
It's amazing to watch that happen because that was almost the same ride, and again repeated by Dirty Laundry, the same ride that Jesse James had, only that boat went over. Here's the pro stock, P88, Miss Don Q, 72.101 miles per hour, the average speed. There you can see Lip Chip in second right behind him, and High Roller is running now in third. Team Hydra has moved up to fourth. Miss Don Q having a good ride this afternoon.
265 horsepower Mercury Marine outboard power that boat as it heads out to open sea again on lap number 2 and under the bridge.
And we point out again that they have their choice of what sand they want to go under there. There's the Lip Chip, and you get a real good shot right inside of that boat, the P7. And again, he's riding just off to the left-hand side. Tony Caligari Jr. is driving that boat and getting a very, very fine ride. This should be High Roller running in third place, Raymond Okoye. And again, you can see that air underneath the boat as that really flies somewhat like an airplane wing.
See, the course changes. They get out to open sea, they get into rollers or rough water. Once they get onto the bay side, they run a lot smoother.
And smoothness is not what they're getting on this course today. The cowling has popped back on Team Hydra to expose the engines. There's some problems today. Let's get a report on attrition.
The first race of the season, and as expected, several of the top drivers are out of the race with problems. The first, Jesse James with Chris Lavin and Don Roberts, they flipped. Whether the boat can be repaired and continue on the rest of the circuit, we don't know. Special edition with John D'Elia, the brand new, beautiful open boat. He had drive and engine problems right from the start. And Thriller with Jack Clark, he lost an EFI box and is off plane.
A lot of boats out of the race at this time, and when we return, we'll join the action with the super boats. Back in Marathon, there's the Big Eagle down below, and on it is a man who's responsible for some major innovations in safety designs, not only for his sport, but for offshore racing as well. Jim?
Kind of relaxing on the host boat. This is the yacht Big Eagle. Bernie Little, who's world champion Miss Budweiser, is in the unlimited division. But here it's offshore day, but still year-round boat racing.
Yes, Jim. Bud Light, of course, is the sponsor for the Marathon Offshore Regatta, and that, of course, is why I'm here. And the Big Eagle is the host yacht for the boat race, and we just, whenever there's boat racing, we're better to make friends, and that's why we're here.
Actually, you know, I see some of your handiwork because I see more and more canopies, more and more enclosed cockpits. In fact, you and your crew started that in Unlimiteds, and you've been a big help to these guys.
Well, I hope so. The Budweiser team, 3 years ago, we started enclosing our canopies, and we've had 3 accidents. We were sure we saved 3 lives by them, and I'm so glad to see the offshores going for them, and I think that they will increase their safety 100% when they get it done.
Your crew chief, Ronnie Brown, has actually made contact with these crew chiefs and helped them.
Many of the teams have been to my race shop in Seattle, the Budweiser race shop, and Popeye Chick and Bill's been out there. Many teams have been out there and been working with us, and we're glad to be a part of their safety.
One of those teams is the Popeyes team. Al Copeland, of course, going out to visit and learn a little bit more about that.
We've had a report that Austin and the Chunky Express have been experiencing some mechanical difficulties, and the Diet Coke Popeyes boat here is not running all that well, according to reports on the course radio.
It looks like that rooster tail that they are well known for is down a little bit, so perhaps they're having some problem with the engines in there. We'll try to check it out and find out what's going on, but there you see the boat is still competing. The number 1, Popeyes, Diet Coke, Al Copeland, and he's got himself a cabin full of help out there also. Here's a little recap of the open class. There's the average speed, 83.609, up just a hair for Swiftshore. Bob Kaiser driving that boat. And they look like they're riding pretty smooth. Of course, they're getting the front water. In other words, that water's not real chopped up from other boats at this point, and he's handling beautifully. And again, I recap that he had some problems the last 2 years, so I know he's happy to be just riding on top of the water.
Here's your Canada Homes, 14 seconds behind Bob Kaiser and Errol Lanier in this race for the open class and the season opener for offshore racing. And Canada Homes has moved up from 4th to 3rd to 2nd.
So a good challenge by the Canada Homes boat, and this is the boat now running in 3rd, Silver Bullet. As we mentioned before, Craig Berry has a brand new boat this year. First time competing in the offshores for this boat, and he's doing a fine job of holding it in there. We just got word in on the radio that John DeLea, apparently in his new boat, he is having some problems at this point. Dirty laundry. Look at this boat. Jim, this boat was back off the pace for a while, has now moved back up to first place, average speed of 76.253.
Followed by Cat, currently in 2nd, and Chariots of Fire has dropped back to 3rd. The Cat has retaken the 2nd place position in their battle in the modified division.
Boy, some good even battling out there. We said earlier that these boats are very equal in size and power, and it's just a matter of how you handle it. There you get a good shot of Cat. This boat now has moved up into 2nd place. Boy, the hands are constantly moving of both the driver and the throttleman. The throttleman looks like he's on one of those rowing machines.
Once those props come out of the water, he's got to get off the power, and they'll cavitate, high wind, and break something.
Boy, once they break, you've got yourself a real costly bill. Good ride for Chariots of Fire, and I don't think that they're disappointed in where they are right now in 3rd place, because they've been very competitive, and they've still got a ways to go in this race.
We are over the halfway point. They still have to negotiate some real rough water on the ocean side, and the bay side a little smoother. As you see, the Pro Stock is in the bay side and getting a much better ride.
This is Lipship, and there you see Milton Lipschutz, who is the throttleman. He is the driver of record for the P7, however. This boat getting a very good ride. Now, they are up in 1st, but the Don Q was in 1st. We're checking the course right now to find out where that boat is.
And here comes the fleet of the stock racing boats. High Risk is leading this class, and they've combined A and B this year into one stock class. Now, this includes the Cats and the Deep V's together instead of running separately. And as they come under the bridge, it's High Risk, Ravon, and Accurate Marine in that order.
We were looking for the Miss Don Q. We just got word the Miss Don Q P88 is out of the race. There you can see the boat. The medical crew has quick response. Randy Mearns, Dr. Jesse Sewell, and, of course, Dr. Matt Houghton. Boy, I'll tell you, there has been a toll to talk about in this race, Jim.
There are medical teams on the water and in the air. And look at the attrition rate in superboats. 4 are out. The only contender is the Popeyes, and it's still running a little rough. 3 we've lost out of the open class. Look at the Pro Stock. 6 boats have gone by the wayside, giving in to old man weather and high wind and rollers on the ocean side.
And it's amazing because when you look at the water, it doesn't look that rough, and that's a good education to some of the pleasure boaters who are watching this. It can really fool you. You've got to keep your eyes on it at all times. Dick Crippen with Jim Hedrick, and we'll return to the Bud Light Marathon Offshore Challenge with a finish in sight.
Welcome back to Marathon, Florida. Bob Kaiser leading both in the open and overall, but Canada Homes is giving him a run for his money. To successfully stage a race of this size, it takes hundreds of volunteers and some very organized individuals.
This particular race has really been a boon to the marathon area and to the, I say area, Mike, because it really is an area.
Yes, the Middle Keys community as well as the entire Monroe County totally benefits from this race. It's an excellent race. The volunteers do a super job, and it's just outstanding. The air is just electrifying.
John Carbonell's the man who kind of got behind this thing to start with, John. You sure got support on it.
We sure did, and we really have a tremendous amount of volunteer help in the Middle Keys area, and we're real happy with it.
Well, you look for bigger and better things still?
Yes, I think every year we try to improve, and I think we did it this year.
Well, you certainly did, and I congratulate both of you because it was a tremendous effort again this year.
It was. The volunteers did a super job. The manpower, when the people came down, the money that came in the community to help us out, like $1.5 million, it's just great. The public is here, and it's super, and next year it's going to be better.
And that's what it takes to put on an offshore event. People like that. Here's your leader overall. First in open and first overall, US 1 Swift Shore. Bob Kaiser and Errol Lanier have it together today, Dick.
Boy, what is the feeling in that cockpit right now? I mean, they did not spin out as they had in the last 2 years. They're actually coming across the finish line. This has got to be a thrill.
Here's Canada Homes, second and open. And by the way, both the first and second open boats are ahead of the leader, Popeyes, in the super boats.
Well, we had a report earlier that there may have been some problems with the Popeyes boat, and apparently that has borne out, although the boat is still competitive and still holding in there. This is the third-place boat as the overall, but is first in the super boat, and that is, of course, Popeyes. Apparently, there was a damaged engine, but he had no competition out there, so it didn't matter. He just held it in there, and he's going to take first in the supers.
Just went for a leisurely afternoon drive along the Marathon Key.
So we congratulate Al Copeland out of the New Orleans, Louisiana area in the Popeyes Diet Coke boat. There's the super boat finish officially. Popeyes first, Chunky Express coming in second, and then Awesome coming in third. And with the attrition today, that's pretty good. I'm sure they're all happy.
And here is your third-place open-class finisher, the Silver Bullet, with Craig Berry behind the wheel.
Certainly can't complain about this finish for Craig, a brand-new boat, and he's had himself a good one. There's the official finish for the open class, Swiftshore, Bobby Kaiser, Canada Homes, and the Silver Bullet. Some good competition out there, and interesting because you had some brand-new boats involved.
Here are two boats, number 76 Flying Blind and number 19 Caliente. They're not only in today's race, but they're also taking part in a major movie being made on offshore racing.
One of the guys involved in driving this particular boat is Reggie Fountain. Now, Reggie's out of North Carolina. He's been around a long time in powerboat racing, but this project has him pretty excited.
I'm here doing some movie work with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Zanuck Brown Production. We pulled a fountain boat right off the assembly line with some Merc Cruiser engines, and we're down here helping them film the movie Blue Lightning, which we hope is going to be a real big hit next summer, just like Top Gun was this past.
I can tell you this much. I'm going to be anxious to see it, and I'm sure you are too, Jim.
The only thing is, these guys are racing for the movie cameras more than in the race. You see the helicopters? They've got cameras on them, and these will be intricate parts of action shots of the movie. Bob Kaiser, a very happy man today at Marathon, Florida. He's the open class winner, and he and Errol Lanier managed to be first across the finish line, beating even the super boats. Dick Crippen is with them.
Well, Bob, a little happier occasion for you this year. Finally, the marathon jinx broken.
Yeah, I was sweating out the first couple turns. I thought I might, do a little 360 again, but Errol took it easy on me today. I gave him a little lecture before we started.
Errol, I think everybody had to be almost shocked at the attrition of this race. That course must have been something else.
It was bad, but we couldn't see the attrition because we didn't know who was behind us, and we just kept having to keep pushing it, and I didn't really like that.
Bob, I can't think of a better way to start a new season.
Yeah, it's really great. The last two seasons I started out with a 7th and a 5th, I think, or something like that, and it's a lot easier. The road's a lot easier ahead instead of being an up-road battle the whole season,
Winner Bob Kaiser, we wish him continued success. Someone else we'd like to wish success to is the Offshore Professional Tour, headed by President Mike Drury. Here's Mark Spencer. Mark?
Every year, the sport of offshore powerboat racing gains in professionalism. Mike Drury, tell us about the newly formed organization, OPT.
Well, OPT actually stands for Offshore Professional Tour Incorporated. This is a corporation that has been formed by all of the race sites on the national circuit, and it's something that we're doing as a business to make money for the sport and the racers. We're working with the American Powerboat Association to actually do a formal marketing corporation to bring additional money and additional sponsors into the sport on a professional business basis.
Back out on the course now, here's quite a story in this race. Joe Mock in the Dirty Laundry started first, ended up third midway through the race, then worked his way back to second. Now he's coming across as winner in the modifieds. Had some problems, but came back, and credit to the new throttle man, Hurley Stepp. A great job out there for Dirty Laundry as they come across now to take the win in the modified class.
It's not always who's the fastest, but who can maintain and survive. Milton Lepschutz and Anthony Calligari Jr. are a good example of that. In the pro stock, they're in first place. They're about the only ones left. Attrition, the name of the game here today, as they head on the last lap toward the checkered flag.
So at this point, they can kind of take it easy. Survival for them is just making it to the finish line and finishing out this final lap. And we'll return to Marathon, Florida for the finish of the pro stock boats after this. Even though Popeyes had some mechanical difficulties, the field of superboats had a lot more. Part of racing is survival, and today, Al Copeland did that best. Jim?
Popeyes Diet Coke winner of the Superboat class for the first race of 1988. Al Copeland, you started out with your crew knowing you had a 3-minute penalty for late registration. You only had a 20-second lead in lap number 3, but then you managed to pull ahead.
Well, we knew we were in that position, but we felt that we could take it in the rough water anytime we really wanted to. We knew we had an edge in the calm water because our boat was faster. But Unfortunately, we broke in the third lap. We weren't planning on that. But
You only ran on 3 engines for about, what, 3 laps?
I'd say about the last lap and a half.
Our congratulations to Big Al.
You know, Marathon has been the hub of activity with the offshore race and the making of a major motion picture. Director Paul Michael Glazer finds race boats a real challenge.
You've been around some wild cars, now some wild boats.
Isn't it something? These boats are amazing and noisy, too.
Blue Lightning. What's it about?
Blue Lightning is about the war between the customs and the smugglers. The hero of our story is a race driver.
So he's out here doing his thing, and this race was the one that came up with all the photographic stuff.
Well, we wanted to tie into one of these races, and it was our first crack in one with the cameras. We threw 10 cameras at it, and I think we got some pretty good footage, so I'm very excited.
Judging from the attrition of today's race, I think you got some great footage.
Well, that's what they told me about the first race. They have to work out a lot of the kinks and you know, things like that. But I think we came through okay. And
when's the movie going to be out?
I think we're looking at a release a year from this summer. Big film. It's a very exciting film, and we're really high on it, and MGM is high on it, which is good because they're paying for it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it and got some good shots. We're going to look forward to seeing them.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, back on the course, the competition is finishing up as the P7 in the Pro Stock lift ship is going to be the winner in this high attrition race. It's been a rough race. Every single class has had problems here in the offshore season opener. Competition in the modified class was very close, but M3 Dirty Laundry came out on top of the pile, if you'll excuse the pun. Mark Spencer is with the winner, Joe Mock. Mark?
An impressive come-from-behind win for Dirty Laundry, Joe. You were down in the water for a little while. What happened?
We were never quite down, but we were slow, and we had some mechanical problems, which I don't know what they were. They finally resolved themselves.
When did you know that you were going to be able to take over Cat to move into the lead?
When we saw him again.
Early step, you were the throttle man last year in Spirit of America. You've moved into Dirty Laundry. What's the difference between these boats?
Well, a smaller boat, the speed's not much different, but you're still running, you know, a 6 foot shorter, so you got to pay more attention to the boat. And in the rougher water, it's a little harder to handle.
So there's your modified winners. Dirty Laundry, followed by Cat and Chariots of Fire, 1, 2, 3. The rough water, as we said, affected everybody. Attrition decimated the Pro Stock class, but a brand new boat, P7, the lift ship, managed to hang on to take the victory.
Well, we continue our talk with winners, and Tony, you had kind of an unusual circumstance happen to you about a lap and a half in.
Yeah, right around a lap and a half, we had the steering wheel come off in our hands. We had to stop the boat and tape it on, and we continued and went on to win.
Undaunted to first place, huh?
It's 3 in a row in the Keys.
Milt, the water out there took its toll among boats. It's a job for a throttleman.
Yeah, it was a little rough out by checkpoint 2, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
So you were able to hold it in there and keep those engines purring the way you wanted.
Yeah, we kept them in there today.
Well, this boat certainly has a little bit of pride behind it now. There's no better way to start the season, Tony, than this.
That's for sure. Milt and I, first race together, and we started off right.
Okay, well, best of luck the rest of the way.
Very good.
So let's take a look at the top 3 in Pro Stock. It's Lift Ship, Scaredy Cat, and High Roller.
Lots of good action in this, the first offshore race of 1988. Here's a look at how the stock boats finished in the stock class: Crimebuster, Accurate Marine, High Risk, and Conch Attack.
Well, Jim, certainly some lessons were learned today. We had a lot of water variables, some wind variables. It was a good first race for 1988.